Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence, and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome, guys. Enjoy the show. Petra, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Guy. Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome, my lovely. You're more than welcome. Now, you're in Australia. A complete stranger stops you on the street. You've never met them before, and they ask you what you do for a living, and you had 1 minute before you had to keep moving. What would you tell them?
Well, I would tell him that I help people change their lives, transform their lives, whether they need to heal or they just need to find a new way to live, to be happy and joyful, and just live the life they want to live.
I can imagine. And if I was to ask you then one more question, do people, the next question I'd ask, are they aware that they want to change?
Well, usually when they come to see me, they're really aware they want to change. Usually it's like the time when they've done with this way of living and they really want to change something, but usually they don't know what to do. And that's when they come and ask me for help. That's
the hardest bit, isn't it? You feel lost, stuck, not sure which direction.
Exactly.
And we admit to ourselves we're ready for change. It might have taken us 20 years to get there, but we've finally admitted.
Yes, we've been trying to change, right? Both of us for quite a long time.
Yeah. Beautiful. Now, I've got an array of questions I want to throw at you today, and obviously we've done work together as well. I've experienced your work firsthand as a patient, and also as a professional. We've worked together too in the retreat as well, and which we'll be doing again, which is beautiful, and that's why I'm so excited to bring you on the show today. But one thing is clear for me, Petra, from knowing you as a dear friend as well, you're insanely passionate about this work, and
I am.
And it's a beautiful quality, because I think one of the greatest gifts we can have is be very passionate about something, and then try and transfer that passion and enthusiasm to someone else to help them along their way too. So why are you so passionate about this work? Because it's not like we can go to university and start learning this stuff. It's the school of hard knocks that normally leads us along the way.
Exactly. I would say that life was my greatest teacher. I think that the path that I went through and the struggles I had helped me to really understand people when they come and ask me for help. And I've been literally through all they might be dealing with. So I really work from my heart, and I really feel them when they come to me, whether it's on one-on-one sessions or if I work with a group of people. So yes, I do have background in therapy, and I've been studying a lot to be able to help. But I think that the greatest part is really understanding and feeling what they're going through.
Yeah. So where did that passion come from for you then? Because I couldn't agree more. The one thing I feel is that we can go and learn many things. We can read a book. We can, apply a lot of theory. But until we've lived it ourselves and have gone through almost our own transformations, our own hero's journey, if you like, to know, with the scars on our back to show that this is, now I get it. Now, until we embody it and live it, and then that's where the wisdom comes from. And I feel the greatest teachings of all can come from that. So what was that for you?
Well, I've been really struggling for a long period of time, and I've been trying to find the right way for myself. And I've tried so many things, and along the way I learned what's working and what's not working, and where we have to start, and how to really start a change and then stick to it and really go with it. So I've tried to heal and I tried to change for a quite long time, and really, as I said, life was my greatest teacher. So
what changes did you have to, self-realizations did you have on your own journey then? Like where were you feeling stuck, and then started to work through that? Like what happened?
well, I had some really challenging periods, mostly privately, mostly being in relationships that weren't good for me, and I've been keeping on getting into the same situations and repeating the pattern. And then I realized I really need to change the pattern, and I really need to become aware of what I'm thinking, what are my core beliefs about life, about everything, and then what do I need to change and how I'm feeling, and then deal with those feelings as well. And one of the biggest things was taking responsibility for what's happening in my life, because it's so easy to go through life and keep on feeling that somebody else is responsible for what's happening to us. And one of the biggest and the hardest things is to take responsibility for whatever is happening or isn't happening. And then again, the biggest power comes from that moment, because then when we take responsibility, we know, okay, it's up to me and I have to change, and I have the power to create my life from now on.
Yeah.
So basically we are unaware of that, and that we are creating whatever is happening ourselves. So yeah, taking responsibility, stepping out of the victim mode is one of the biggest things I think that we can do first.
Do you find then a lot of people come to you without that realization? Like, can there be a lot of blame as opposed to responsibility?
Yeah, it's very interesting. You know, when I do my school of personal change, and then we go through stages, as you know, and we have these 8 weeks that we go through. For first 3 or 4 weeks, when we work on our beliefs and our emotions, what I find is for people, it's really hard to accept that they have to step back into their power and to take responsibility for whatever is happening. And for first few weeks, they are really afraid, but still they are really blaming others for what's happening. And then this is the hardest bit, to step and say, okay, I'm done with blaming, and I'm really taking my power back and I'm changing it. So as long as we keep on going through life and blaming whoever, other people, our boss, our partner, life, universe, God, we are stuck. So yeah.
Do you think then the situations start to arrive to see if we get, like, I actually believe now, like, that if there's something not, if I'm not in flow and there's something happening somewhere in my life that really aggravates me, or I'm resisting, or there's just this thing there, I try to look at it these days as if, where's the lesson I'm not learning yet? What part of myself am I not willing to look at?
Exactly. Oh, well, I like to call that shadow. And I strongly believe that every person is in our life to teach us something. So whoever is in our life, his or she is there for a reason. And they really reflect to us, what is it that is not healed inside of me and I need to heal? Whether it's something that is really pisses me off with somebody else or in somebody else, or is it something that I wish I would have that the other person has? And then again, I have to really go inward and see, okay, what is it that really bothers me in this situation? How do I feel? And what can I do with that feeling? So every person is our greatest teacher. And the ones that are really bothering us the most are the biggest teachers.
Yeah. Okay. And the one other thing I want to stress, because I thought just landed down for me as well, though, is that do you think it's fair to say then we can actually start to, if we have this realization, we can actually go the wrong direction and go, oh my God, it's all me, it's all my fault. And then all of a sudden play the victim game from that space too?
Yeah, we can go to the other side and then really start criticizing ourselves and really damage our self-confidence. And it's really important to not blame others, but again, not to blame ourselves as well, because what we've done, and we have this moment and we have future. So we can decide now, what are we going to do? And if we keep on repeating the patterns of self-blame, we are again stuck. As long as we keep on blaming ourselves, we are again stuck. So there's no blame. There's no point in blaming others or blaming ourselves. We are here to learn the lessons, and as long as we are willing to learn from the mistakes we do, we are okay. So one of the things that's really important is to be aware that it's okay to make mistakes, as long as we learn from them and move on.
Totally. Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Now, the one thing I find, Petra, with this work is that a lot of it initially can feel non-tangible. And in that sense, I mean, like, it's almost, because I'm from the health and fitness background initially, it's like if somebody comes in wanting to lose weight per se, in 6 months' time, there's a very visual aspect to something and you can see the change. And I think the work that we do for a lot of people on the outside looking in that have zero idea can look at one and go, what the hell are those guys on about? Like, seriously, what the fuck? You know, and because it's almost like we're dealing with the emotions, the unseen, the parts that can be difficult even to measure at first as well. But I wanted to raise this because I think it's a beautiful topic to discuss, because I know you've been working with therapist Norman Schack from Germany.
From Germany, yes.
Yeah, and you've been doing some great stuff about actually measuring the unmeasurable, per se,
exactly.
where science is catching up a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about Norman and how you guys came together and what work you've been doing as well with this? Because I think that will help clear up quite a few things for people listening.
Sure. Well, Norman and I met at Dr. Joe's events, Dr. Joe Dispenza's events, when Norman was doing brain mapping for Joe. And as we talked, this idea came to my mind that what would happen if we would try to measure what's happening when I work with my patients and help them create change. What's happening in their brains, what's happening in their with their heart, what's happening inside of their body, but also what's happening in their aura, in electromagnetic field. And luckily, Norman has this amazing brain research unit, and he has this amazing machines, and he's all into it. So what we did is last year we had first round of this research, and we are doing it again this year in May, where we have patients coming in. I'm helping them heal or transform in any way, and then we measure them before, during, and after sessions, and the results are really, really beautiful. So it's starting to get measurable.
Yeah. And when you're working with people, can you maybe give us a bit of a broad outline then of some of the processes that you're taking people through while they're getting measured? Because it's not easy, because if we've got these belief patterns that we are running on, that we're not even aware they're there and we don't even know what they are, like what kind of things do you look at to allow people to actually start to access that?
Well, first we do pre-talk and intake, and then based on that, I know which questions to ask for start. And I help them to get really in relaxed state. I help them to get into hypnotic state, into hypnosis. And that way we can access subconscious mind, because what happens is usually people, and I was one of them, we are trying to find answers with our conscious mind, and we keep on going in circles because we cannot get answers by only thinking about why is this happening, right? And we need to dive into ourselves and dive into our subconscious, because 95% of our mind is subconscious mind, and our body is like a huge storage of all our experiences and our beliefs and our emotions, and that's where we go in, and that's where we find answers. Why is this happening? Or why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Or why is my body sick? And then we get the answers, and I help them transform that, whether we need to do the regression and to go back to the moment when that pattern started, or where's the root of emotion I'm feeling today. And I use specific tools and techniques to help them release that and change. And at the same time, Norman is measuring brain and heart and body and electromagnetic field, and we are seeing what's happening as
that process goes on.
Exactly.
So with all the people you've worked with, and I just want to hammer this home for people, right? Because this is where they can get a little bit gray, if you like, you know. But from what I've seen and what you've seen, would it be fair to say then that subconscious mind, you know, the body itself, right, and all those memories, all those experiences, all the other governing things it can do, would you be fair to say that the body actually physically holds on to those experiences as a physical memory in the body?
Yeah, sure. If we don't process it in the right way, and if something happens and we don't allow ourselves to go through whatever we need to go in that moment and to process whether it's whatever we need to do, our body keeps the memory. And if it's body starts to give us signals, and at first it's maybe talking to us in like whispering to us and trying to get our attention. And if we are not paying attention to the body starts speaking louder. And if we are still not getting it, the body starts shouting, and we really get ill, which is another really important thing, that it's really, really important that when we get ill, apart from getting help from doctors and dealing with the symptoms, it's really important to dive into and see where the root cause of that problem or the illness is. Otherwise, we would take the symptom out and the body will still be unhealed inside, and it will again look for our attention.
Yeah.
So the illness will come back in the same way or some other way, but we need to heal for sure.
So it's almost like if you got a weed in the garden, you're pulling it out, but you're not digging in to pull out the roots.
The root, exactly.
And then
you're just cutting the grass.
Yeah,
it just keeps on coming out.
And it keeps coming back. And then with an experience like that, I'm guessing it's a process, right? It's not like you go, oh, I'm going to go and see Petra today. I'm going to tap into my subconscious. I'm going to create all this marvelous change, pull out the roots, and crack on. Like you know, I'm guessing there has to be work put into it.
Yes. Well, you know, sometimes it really happens in one session that they really heal, because we really go in and they really got the message. It's also important that we understand why that happened and what was the message underneath. And if we're willing to learn the message, we are free. And if we are still not willing to see what was causing it, and we still cling on to it, it will keep on happening, just like in life. If we are having issues with like maybe in relationships, and we won't solve the problem if we break up with one partner and then get into a new relationship, because if we didn't heal ourselves, we will create the same situation again. We will attract the same kind of partner, right? Or being at a work that we are not happy at, and it's not enough to change working space, because we will attract again the same situation. If we, for example, feel underestimated or whatever we are feeling at one work, if we don't work on our sense of worth, we will create again the same situations on the other work, right?
Yeah.
So again, it's coming back to us. We need to work on ourselves and heal.
Why do you think people are so terrified, or quite often, of actually looking within and looking at these things? Like, what have you found from your experience? Why?
Because it's so much easier to live in the unknown, in the known, than in the unknown. It's much easier to live in the circumstances that we know, and looking inside might really open the box, and a lot of things that we really put inside and didn't want to look into, that which might be really painful, might come up. So it does take courage, But then again, there's no other way. We need to deal with stuff that is keeping us from moving forward.
Well, what do you think happens if we keep burying the box?
We just keep on being in the same situations, creating the same situations. Our bodies will continue getting worse, and nothing will change, actually. We might try many different things from outside, but it won't change us unless we really take responsibility and see why are we creating this or that.
Yeah, yeah. On the other side of courage lies freedom. I remind myself of that all the time, and it's a beautiful process. And I always recall, because obviously we did the retreat with Mr. Matt Omo as well, who works with sound, and Matt's experience for me many years ago was the first time I actually felt my body physically leave go some grief and trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt it come out of my body. And when you have an experience like that, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, that's real. That just happened to me. Nobody can take that away from me. And it was like this backpack I'd been carrying around. I'll be open with people here. It was the death of my father, and there was a lot of circumstances at the time, and I didn't realize I hadn't grieved correctly. And this was a couple of years later, this process happened. So I just want to reiterate that for people, because the body is so wise. It's so amazing, and it wants to do everything it can to protect and help us. But we have an analytical mind that doesn't want to listen.
Yeah, just as you mentioned, the grief. It happens so often that people just instead of allowing themselves time to grieve and to heal, because of the world we're living in, especially you guys that are being taught that boys don't cry and you should just get your stuff together and just be the man. You close and you try to continue living, but your heart is still hurt, and there's a huge amount of sadness inside. And although you try to operate and be normal, you're just carrying still that pain inside, and that's what happened to you. That sorrow and the grief just exploded out of you, right?
Totally.
So
yeah,
it's a lot of people tend to close their hearts when they get hurt, or they really escape and into their head, and then they focus on work or whatever. They're just occupied with some things from outside, just not to go in, because yes, change is painful, it's hurtful, but it's so worth doing that. It's so freeing, because unless you go there and face your fears, you're in prison and you're not moving anywhere.
Yeah, and that's a really hard place to be. That's a really hard place to be. And I think I find as well, with even, since doing Let It In for the last year, and then same with you in Croatia, because you got a yoga studio, and like community is a real important aspect to this as well, I think, and being able to share these ideas and talk to other people and be able to feel like you're not isolated and you're all alone doing this work.
Yeah, I think it's also very important that we are vulnerable and open, and that we tell people, look, we are also human, right? And and we are just going through the same process like you are going through, and we are just might be a few steps ahead of you and learn things that helped us, and we want to teach you to help you heal as well. I think that we are all on the same path our whole lives, right?
Totally.
It's just constantly new things are coming for us to learn and to heal and to move through and just to rise higher and higher.
Yeah, I always used to say to myself, Petra, I bought in when I was doing 180 and success was happening. I always used to think that my problems would romantically go away because I'd be doing great. In fact, it was the opposite thing. The problems actually just got greater.
Yeah.
So I realized in life that it wasn't wishing my problems to go away anymore, is that I just had to develop a better toolkit to deal with the problems at hand.
Exactly, because problems are part of our life, and I call them challenges, because life will keep on bringing us challenges, and it's just about knowing the tools, what to use to deal with those challenges, right?
Yes.
So it's also important to know that life won't I mean, yes, it becomes much, much easier, but again, challenges will come. I think it's very wrong to think that we won't have any challenges in our lives again, but we know the tools and we know how to deal with them, and we know it's going to be okay. And whatever is coming, it's there for us to learn something. And it's okay. Okay, just another lesson. Let's see what I have to learn now, and I'll deal with that. And then another one and another one.
Yeah.
And just trust.
Before I change topics, because there's a couple of other things I want to cover with you today that I know you've got a lot of wisdom on. But just to sort of tie this in, then for somebody listening to this, and they might be on the cusp of wanting change, but they're still like, oh my God, I'm not opening Pandora's box. I'm not looking in there. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just going to I'll just wait it out another 6 months.
Ignoring.
Keep ignoring. Like, what advice would you give them, or maybe 3 simple things they could start to look at or do just to, instead of like creating a big explosion, just slowly edging their way into this direction?
Yeah, just become aware of your thoughts. Become aware, what are you thinking? Become aware of how are you feeling? How are you acting? And start looking at why are certain people in your life? What are they teaching you? And I think a lot of answers lie right there. I also feel that one of the greatest tools is meditation, and I think that both of us know that, and it really, really helps us, first of all, to start the day in completely new energy and mindset. And again, it helps you stay centered and aware of yourself during the day. And of course, sometimes we do slide and lose ourselves, but then again, retreat, center, and then look, okay, what's happening and what can I do now? So being aware of our thoughts and our emotions and what's happening around us, and how am I creating this and why am I creating this? I think that's where the key lies.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So the other topic I wanted to bring up slightly as well, and it's something that I was completely oblivious to existing until maybe 5 years ago, and started looking at heavily and made it impact, is the energy centers of the body on the endocrine system. And again, I think only now science is starting to catch up to admit they are there. But, Eastern philosophies, I'm sure, as you can explain, have been talking about these things for thousands and thousands of years. Could you give us a brief overview of what energy centers are and why they're certainly worth looking at with this work?
Sure. Well, yes, as I've been yoga teacher for almost 15 years, I've learned from yoga philosophy about energy centers, but as you said, it's untouchable. It's hard to be aware of them until you really dive into it. And luckily, what we do with Norman, when we do the measurements, one of the machines that Norman has is this GDV machine, which really measures what's happening in each and every energy center and in our electromagnetic field. Actually, we are energy, right? We tend to perceive ourselves as this material bodies, and we are so much more than that. And energy centers are centers that are really exchanging energy between us and the other world, and each of them is connected with our physical bodies through our glands. And when we focus, or when I focus on working with people, I focus on major 7 energy centers. Okay. And each one of them is connected to certain set of emotions, certain set of beliefs, and I would say problems in our physical body if they appear on a physical level. So therefore, when we are working with, for example, first energy center, what we're working with fear and with beliefs that we carry about being welcomed here on earth, feeling safe and secure and grounded, feeling that we have our needs met, that we will always have what we need in material way. So like food, water, shelter, sleep. And then also it's very connected to, yeah, you want to say something?
I was going to ask you a question on that. Yeah. So just to talk about that center then. So let's,
Mm-hmm.
you're born into this world and you're not feeling safe. Maybe there's family arguments and disputes,
Yeah.
and you're growing up in that environment. Then, and there's nothing you can do. That's the card you've been dealt. This is the life you're born into. Then would that life directly affect that energy center, the root center, like you spoke about? So does that mean it would close off or shut down? Like how does it work?
It really impacts, because the way we've been brought into the world, the way what was happening with our mother when we were still in the womb affects our first energy center as well. And we also can pick up mother's emotions and her fear and come to this world with that as well. Then again, the way we are born, how our birth was it a difficult birth or an easy one? What was happening in the family when we arrived? Was there enough food? How was our mom feeling when she was feeding us? Whether she was breastfeeding or not.
Wow.
So anything that what was happening when we were in that early stage affects our energy center, especially the first three ones. So the first, second, and third, where we carry fear, guilt, and shame.
Got it. So I'm just trying to make this tangible for people, right?
Okay.
So would that be fair to say then? So let's say we've affected those three energy centers all the way from pre-birth through birth through upbringing, and you speak of guilt, you speak of shame. I know so many people hold, we put on this mask and of projection that everything's okay, but there's a huge self-worth issue maybe going on underneath, and what we actually truly feel about ourselves. There's all these things. So would it be fair to say then that the very things that we spoke about at the beginning about belief systems in the subconscious, that these very things are then affecting the way we feel on a moment-to-moment basis? That's affecting our belief system, that's affecting the way we perceive everything?
Exactly. For example, if we arrived into this world and with a sense of that it's not safe to be here, and we feel insecure if we haven't been fed, if we've been neglected, if we didn't receive attention and love, we will feel that lack in our life as well. So as grown-ups, we might feel insecure, unloved. We might seek for love outside of us. We will have very weak boundaries, and we will just keep on looking for what we feel that it's missing unconsciously from outside, and keep on repeating the situations which will be here to help us heal and to help us open our eyes. But it might take some time, like we did for us, for maybe 30 or 40 years, or maybe for some people 50 or 60 years, to be willing to open our eyes and see, okay, this is because of that, and I'm looking for love outside of me because I didn't receive it as a kid, and actually nobody can give me that love instead of me, right? We are the ones who first need to feel self-love, and then we are capable of being in relationships which are really good relationships, right? Otherwise we'll just keep on attracting partners that will just keep on being cold and distant, and which again, they're our teachers and they're helping us to turn inward and find the love inside.
Exactly. I heard a beautiful analogy the other day, and I can't even remember if I repeated it on a podcast. God, there's so many conversations I'm having, I lose track. But it was literally, if we're a cup and we're filling our own cup first, we really need to fill our own cup with that. And then as it overflows, there's a saucer catching the rest of the overflow, and then there's enough for everyone else to come and drink from. But you have to make sure your own well is full. And I think there's so many of us that are not operating from that place.
Yes, most of us.
Most of us, right?
Especially women. Yeah, we're so used to giving, and also we women might be raised as to be pleasers and to be taking care of our family or our children or our partners, and we very easily forget that we need to give that attention and care towards us, to ourselves, and then to others.
Yeah.
And there's also, it's a great way when they talk, when you're flying, and when they give these instructions before the flight, and they say, if in case of change of air pressure, first put the mask on yourself and then help others, right? Yeah, because if you don't give yourself oxygen, you'll pass out and you won't be able to help others, right?
Totally.
So we really need to take care of ourselves, and then we can really be of service to others for a longer period of time.
Yeah, love it, love it. So with the energy centers, then we've established the first three. So like you're saying, the way you're brought into the world, you're feeling safe, secure, and sounded, and then building a foundation. I'm assuming the three centers, about finding your identity in the world and what it means to you. And then there's four more major centers. So what happens from that point as we travel north?
Then we raise up to our hearts, and we learn how to love, again, love ourselves, then love others. Then our fifth center, how we speak, how we allow whatever is inside of us, what we're feeling or what we're thinking, to go out. Because if we don't feel safe in our lower centers, or if we feel guilty or ashamed, we won't feel okay with sharing what's inside with the other world, right? We'll just keep it closed. And or if we are not living our purpose, again, our fifth center will be very affected. So you cannot really divide one from each other. They're really working together because the energy flows, right, through all of them. Yeah. So we have to have the whole picture and to be aware of the connection between all of them. Yeah.
And then so from the heart to the throat.
To the throat, and then we get to the sixth center, where lies are the way we perceive world, the way we can imagine what we actually want to experience, and that center, that we use to create the future we want to live in, right? And it's a center of intuition. It's a center of trusting what we see is right. And often if as kids we've been told that what we're seeing is not what we're seeing. For example, if somebody was raised with a father who had a drinking problem, and mother was trying to protect the situation, and she was saying, oh no, dad is not drunk, he's just tired, for example, and the kid knows, because the kid feels and the kid sees what's happening, but it learns to not trust his or her intuition, right? And it shuts this center, and it's very hard to focus. It's very hard to memorize things. It's hard to be concentrated, and it's hard to learn. And also it's hard to trust intuition and to imagine anything. So a lot of problems with thinking, with perceiving the world starts here. Yeah. And then there is our seventh center, through which we are open to God, to universe, and then we open. And also what is very important to mention here is people tend to run away from the lower centers up when something hard is happening here, because it's, as we mentioned, it's much easier to run away from ourselves or to run away from what's happening because it's painful and hard and challenging up. And then they might go too deep into religion or anything that is drawing their attention. But then again, we chose to be here living these lives. So it's important to be grounded as well, and to deal with challenges we are facing, and not to run away from them. Yeah. And a lot of people tend to run up, or maybe because of some trauma, their energy field is so damaged, and they're just not present into in their bodies. If somebody was abused or had a difficult childhood, what happens is when we experience trauma, we tend to get out of our bodies and not to see and not to be present while that trauma or abuse is happening. And if we don't heal that, we stay outside, and we have problems really with living here, with being present, with being good at work, with being good at school, with dealing with everyday problems, because we are not in our bodies. We are just partially out.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I would just want to reiterate while we're on this topic, just for people. And I don't know whether it's because I'm a male, Petra, and you ladies see things differently or not. But for me, you know, like for many years, I had to have a sledgehammer whacked over my head before I got it, kind of thing. And then I was like, oh my God, now I get it. And then all of a sudden, it just changed everything. But when I first started looking at this work, I always had problems with my throat and my eyes. I always used to get
Mm-hmm.
conjunctivitis as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember seeing I must have been like 25, and I remember seeing a practitioner. It was a friend's wife or something. I'd never been to see anyone before. I had no idea what the hell I was doing there. She said, "Oh," and she didn't charge me at the time. She was like, because it was a friend's wife. She said, "Just sit there." And within 2 minutes, she said, "You don't speak your truth, and you don't like what you see in the world." And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Oh, that's really weird." But at the same time, it really sat with me for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was doing this work, when I fully started embracing it and really delving in, I felt my energy center in the throat burst open. And I felt that energy was so powerful and so real. And it was like this release that had come from, I don't know, previous 35 years of living a certain way and not actually speaking my true
Your
self.
truth. Yeah.
And
Living your truth.
it was as real as the light that lights up my light bulb when I flick the switch on. Like this was a real tangible energy. And until I experienced that, I always just thought this is nice philosophy.
Yeah,
But it's
exactly.
not.
I can so relate with that because actually what helped me make this first big huge change in my life is when I got sick and when my thyroid just stopped working. And that was my wake up call when I said to myself, well, really, I need to change something. And when I really decided to dive even deeper inside of myself, I realized I'm not living my truth. I'm not living or doing what I should be doing. I'm just trying to live the way my environment expects me to live. And as soon as I started living what I believe in, what I feel, and do this work, my thyroid is really, it made an amazing progress because I was really literally on the verge of that at that time.
Wow.
So I can so relate with, yeah, not living your truth and not speaking your truth and not allowing yourself to express what you're holding inside, because all of us are here with a purpose, right? We just need to
100%.
recognize what that purpose
100%.
is.
And that's what I'm going to mention the retreat we did at the beginning of the year as well. So, you know, the three of us came together, myself, you and Matt, we're bringing our different experiences to the space for 3 days, 3 full days. But what was absolutely beautiful is not only we're slowly working through individuals, but as a community, it actually amplifies the process and the work of actually allowing people to start moving through these blocked emotions quicker
Yeah.
in a safe environment, and to see the transformations start to come and give people a new reference point, because that's what I always say, once you've experienced something you can never take that away. You know, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months later, when life is throwing, because life's still going to throw shit at you to see if
Did you
you
learn the lesson?
yeah, did you learn the
Are you
lesson?
sticking on this path?
Exactly. And all of a sudden, though, you've got these reference points that you've been able to embody and learn a new way of thinking, but a new way for the subconscious to think too. And it carries you so much more. The next thing you know, you're able to overcome these challenges that you might not have even been able to look at for the last 40 years.
Exactly.
And that's living, right? That's where the work really is, you know. But yeah, as I felt I
You
needed.
just look at the world with through completely new eyes. It's
Yeah.
just amazing. Yeah.
How would, because people still ask me like, 'cause we call the retreat Let Go and Live in Flow. And I do get people asking me, well, what do you do? What happens? I mean, how would you describe it?
Well, I know that I just got an email from one of the ladies asking me to tell her more about what to expect from our retreat in August, right? And I said, you just have to be there. You cannot explain that in words. It's just amazing, right? And that transformation that people go through, it's so hard to explain in words. They just leave as new people.
Yeah.
They come as one, in one set, and then we just do whatever we do. And what was beautiful is that we really felt the group. Although we had a schedule, we had a plan, but we were just dancing and flowing with them, and we adjusted to the whole group and helped them move through transition. So that's why I think anybody who feels even that they should come, then it means they should come, right? There's a reason why they feel pulled.
Yeah, if you're pulled.
And we don't know why until they come.
Like us, we were pulled to do it, in the first place. And we could have said, no, but we honored that. And it was more beautiful than we could imagine. So it's the same process. It's the same process, it's beautiful. Now, Petra, I ask everyone a certain set of questions on the show.
Okay.
So there's no right or wrong answers, and you can answer any way you want. So the first question, is, what's been a low point in your life you've had, but later in life turned out to be a blessing?
Well, I would say this point when I mentioned you my thyroid. So the point where my marriage was falling apart, I was really sick. I had huge financial problems. It was just piling one onto the other, and it seemed like there's no way out. And I had nothing left to do than to change. And I really feel that period was my greatest blessing. It felt like my life is just got to an end and there's no way out. But that moment was my greatest blessing. That was my lowest point, but my highest point at the same time.
Beautiful. Yeah. What does your morning routine look like?
My morning routine looks like that. I get up really early and I allow myself time to meditate and then to take care of my body, whether it's yoga or some other body work, and then go out into the world. So I don't start any day without meditation, for sure, and for taking time to be inside of myself or outside when we go into those deeper states of meditation. Which really helps me go through life, go through day and deal whatever is coming in a completely new way. And I really feel the difference if I meditate or not. The days that I don't meditate, which are very, very rare, but sometimes it happens, as I'm a single mom with 2 boys and whatever, they might get sick or something and I miss this morning for whatever reason, my day is completely different than if I allow myself time to center and to set the pace for my day. So that's a huge, huge tool I think all of us should be using.
I hear you. I definitely hear you. If you could have dinner with anyone tonight, from anywhere in the world, from any time frame as well, who would it be and why?
Well, I would say from intellectually, it would be probably somebody like Einstein or Nikola Tesla. That would be a really interesting conversation. But also it would be amazing to have a dinner with some amazing, strong woman, like goddess woman, which I cannot name, right? That's the woman, but yeah, really the one that is embodying all this amazing power, which we women living in this modern world might have forgot.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And with everything we've covered today, is there anything you'd like the listeners to share with the listeners to ponder on to tie it up?
Just trust that we're here for a reason, and just be willing to see whatever you need to see, because it just sets you free. And I think it's for everybody important to just step into it and just trust face the fear, face whatever you need to face, allow yourself to deal whatever you feel is holding you back from living the life it is, whether you know it or not. If you don't know it, ask for help. There are people out who can help you. It's just don't stay stuck.
Totally. Beautiful. And if anyone wants to learn more about your work, Petra, where's the best place to send them?
Well, they can just go to my website, which is www.petrabrzovic.com. We should maybe write this down next to the podcast.
There will be a link in the show notes. So if you listen to this in the car, you can literally pause the podcast and scroll down and you'll see the link straight away underneath.
Okay, because my surname is quite challenging.
It is. It took me a while to spell it and pronounce it, but I got there, Petra.
I know it.
Beautiful.
Exactly.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in August in person, obviously, for the retreat. But
I can't wait to be there as well.
Yeah. And I just want to thank you for everything that you do in the world, Petra. And it's a beautiful conversation. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And I'm very honored to call you a dear friend. Thank you.
I feel the same. Thank you, my dear friend, for everything you do.
You're welcome. Thanks, Petra.
Okay. Thank you, Pani. Bye.
Bye.